Hey everyone, this is Ed K. Smith, the co-host of the Asset Show with the co-host Rob K. Hello, Rob. How are you, Rob?
Good, mate. Yourself?
Very, very good. And all the way from Ottawa, Canada, we have Connor Bode, who is from Avvy Domain Names. How are you, Connor?
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me on here.
Thanks for turning up for our audience all over the world, including down under. So Rob is very excited to have you on because there's a big backstory to Avvy Domains and what they're about. I am not the expert. These other two guys are.
I'm not the expert.
Particularly Connor. Well, Connor's the expert.
I'm a customer.
He's a customer enthusiast with great belief in the future of this domain extension. So let's get cracking and do a bit of a first of all explanation about who Connor is, and get a bit of a backstory about you, Connor, before we start launching into the whole story about Avvy Domains.
That's a good point, Connor. Before Avalanche even existed, or even Bitcoin, what have you been doing for the past 10 years before you've started this new .avax domain name extension?
Yeah. So I mean, I'm a software developer. I studied computer science. Before I was working in this space, I was doing a lot of like web and mobile applications. And I've been kind of building for web since I was quite young. I got introduced to it through video games and needed to build my own website. And I just kind of started Googling, and I gradually transitioned from like, this is like video games are my hobby to this is a fun creative outlet, and there are so many problems to be solved. And so that's kind of how it all started. And then I progressed, and I was working. So after I finished my degree, I was doing work in sort of just mobile app development, web applications, consulting with startups and small business.
Okay.
And I mean, my transition into the blockchain world happened kind of gradually. I was never really kind of interested in the financial aspects of blockchain, more interested in like all of the technical aspects. And so kind of happened gradually.
That's a good point, which we make regularly on this show, is that the term cryptocurrency has taken hold of the whole sector when it is technically not correct calling all the things we're talking about currency. It's blockchain technology, Web3 technology. It's not a currency per se. So everything gets tarred with the same brush, but it's not accurate. So that's great. So you're one of these younger people that has sort of grown up with this with the internet and technology, and you are seeing what the potential is with what you're doing now going forward into the future, because nothing stays the same, does it? We've evolved from Web 1 technology to Web 2, so traditional internet, World Wide Web, Web 2, social media, and now Web 3, which encompasses everything under the banner of blockchain, NFTs, DeFi, et cetera, et cetera. So we've got a massive amount of questions for you, Connor. Brace yourself. Rob's been writing them on the whiteboard, and he's going to get ripping into them.
I've got my trusty whiteboard next to me in this little studio I've set up. Just so that everyone's clear on what's happening here, because people might be saying, what's this show about again? Australians know that we have .com.au and now .au to get on the internet and find websites and communicate via email. What Connor's done is he's created a new extension out of thin air pretty much, and just literally now called .avax. And it works. It basically is the new domain names for the Avalanche blockchain. So everyone out there's heard of Bitcoin as a currency, but it's also a blockchain. They've heard of Ethereum. Some people might not have heard of Avalanche and Solana. Connor has created .avax domain names for the Avalanche network. So with that being said, maybe Connor, let's talk about what is Avalanche, the blockchain.
Sounds great. So Avalanche is it's a network of blockchains. So when you talk about Bitcoin, we sort of have a single blockchain. When we talk about Ethereum, it's a single blockchain that can run applications on top of it. Avalanche can run, for example, it has the C chain running on top of it, which is an instance of the Ethereum virtual machine. So it can kind of run Ethereum on top of it, but it can also run many other types of blockchains. So when they first launched, they had three chains on there. They had the X chain, the P chain, and the C chain. Blockchains are, they all have different properties to them, and they can all serve different purposes. In this example, in Avalanche, the X chain, it was used for, like, it's a very fast payments network, so it's very, very cheap and very fast. While the P chain is kind of used to, like, secure the network and manage the operations of the network. So Avalanche itself, the underlying platform, what they want to offer is they want to give developers the chance to kind of build their own blockchains and have this sort of this platform that handles the consensus underneath. So there's a network of validators, and they can all come together and they can validate the blockchain, like a custom blockchain that's made. I don't know if that's a very clear explanation.
I think that's pretty good, actually. It clears some things up for me as well, because people, don't understand that Avalanche is a network of blockchains, like you're saying. So meanwhile, with developers that are working on the C chain of Avalanche and the X chain, do they all use and talk to each other via basically the one Avalanche address, so to speak?
You mean the .avax address, or do you mean like a wallet address on these networks?
Like a wallet address, yeah.
Right.
Is that how they communicate?
No. So that's actually one of the big challenges that exists, and that's one of the large use cases for these .avax addresses. So we have, for example, we spoke about the C chain, so that's sort of the Ethereum version, and that has the OX wallet addresses, very similar to Ethereum. When we speak about the X chain, they have a separate set of wallet addresses. The P chain, a separate set of wallet addresses. Right now, what's happening is developers are working on subnets, which are like they're working on new blockchains. But what Ava Labs is pushing, they're pushing what's called EVM precompiles. So they're pushing developers to build their own sort of instances of Ethereum. So there would be sort of many blockchains running, each one an instance of Ethereum. And in that case, your wallet address that works on the C chain would work on each instance of Ethereum. It also works on, like, the main Ethereum network if you want to use it there. So sort of any instance of this Ethereum virtual machine, you can use your Ethereum wallet on. So in that sense, it is kind of portable between those networks.
Okay, but like you're saying, like kind of like wallet addresses on the C chain are different than on the other chains. So if I had one .avax domain name, could I tell the P chain and the X chain and the C chain have the different addresses all under that one .avax domain name?
Yeah, correct. That's the goal.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. That's real cool. Which makes sense. Yeah. So if you owned like 123.avax, which I do, and
just saying.
And by the way, this is the first time I've met Connor, so it's not like he slipped it to me. I had to buy that in the sunrise period.
Yeah, you did. I was getting a message every single domain he was buying. I got this one. I'm
excited. So if I have 123.avax, if I'm talking to someone on the, or if I'm talking to on the C chain or the P chain or the X chain, doesn't matter. I can just say, hit me at 123.avax.
Yeah, that's definitely the goal. And that all of those fields exist. And like kind of the stipulation is that like we need to get those integrations with wallets so that works. Because at the moment the integrations aren't there. That's what we're building on right now. But that's the ultimate goal, what you just mentioned.
Unreal. Cool. I mean, this is early days, and yet in the Avalanche network, so early. I mean, it's still early in the Ethereum blockchain as well. I mean, we're early. There's memes going around saying we're not early, but I think we are early.
Yeah. Look, for old bastards like me that have been around since, you know, the start of the internet, I can pretty much guarantee, seeing the patterns of the other things that have happened, we are freaking early. Okay, we're not early for Bitcoin, but all the other things over the last few years that are coming out, this is 1996 equivalent, in my opinion.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I mean, and we've got to say this in every podcast. This is not financial advice. Do your own research. Anything we say here is for educational purposes only. So if you're going to go and buy domains or do anything, you know, speak to someone who can give you professional advice before going spending your money on lots of things. It's not what we're saying to do. We're trying to educate the market on the options and availability of what there is. Now, that's
the technology, new technology works out and booms, or it fizzles out and gets replaced by other technology. We're not sure what's going to happen. Back to let's talk about, Connor. Why did you choose Avalanche to make a domain name extension instead of like another blockchain network or group of networks like Solana or Ethereum?
Yeah, I mean it's kind of a funny personal story actually. So it must have been, I would say like 2014 or 2015. I was kind of, you know, aware of how Bitcoin worked, wasn't involved in it. Aware like Ethereum had launched, but it was before the DAO hack of Ethereum. And a friend was in town in Montreal, and I went to go see him at this like small house party. And it was my friend was there for a blockchain a blockchain conference. And I ended up in this house full of, like, in retrospect, a bunch of like very key players in the blockchain space now. So people from who are part of Cosmos, part of Ethereum, and one of the people who was there was Emin Gün Sirer, the CEO of Avalanche. And I had no idea who any of these people were. And so it was this small party. I was like a recent graduate of university, kind of excited to start my career, but I was really overwhelmed by all these people. And actually Goon he was the most rational person in the room, I felt. And he took time to explain some concepts to me. He actually explained shorting to me. He was very kind and took a lot of time. And I after that, I started following his, his Twitter and his lab, and I was really impressed with all of the work coming out of it. So I've been following him for quite some time. And, I think, paying attention to the different blockchains in the space, I saw a lot of people like really what I felt like was just kind of like pumping their product. And I felt that his lab was putting out like quality research. And so I was really drawn in by that. The other thing that drew me to Avalanche before this point was that, there was some high quality analysis of some of the hacks that were going on in Ethereum. And so I just felt that there was like a lot of technical expertise. And yeah, so once Avalanche started getting promoted, I was very much interested in the consensus. It's much, from my personal opinion, it seems much faster. And
Avalanche seems to be a faster network, but it's also cheaper. Like the Ethereum $40 gas fees to transfer. I mean, I've noticed Avalanche is fairer in that regard.
Yeah. And especially if you look at if you look at the X chain, there aren't a lot of people transacting on the X chain, but as a payments network, it's incredibly cheap and incredibly fast. And I think that's actually
and the number of transactions per second, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Is faster, more transactions per second than any of the other networks I've seen.
Yeah, and I think, you know, that's sometimes you'll see like comparisons, and a lot of the networks will kind of throw out you don't know who to trust on these comparisons, right? But again, I really believe that the research coming out of Avalanche is high quality, and that they're honest about how the network works. The other very important point is that the transaction finality on Avalanche is very quick. So on other blockchains, you might have your transaction rolled back like much later in time. So the chains, and I'm not really an expert here, but to the best of my understanding, you know, chains can still make decisions at a much later time, and the network can choose a fork that your transaction wasn't on, and this can lead to like kind of major problems where you know, you thought your transaction was final, turns out it was not. So in Avalanche, that happens very instantly.
Yeah, I've been using Avalanche for a while, and I remember the first time I logged into the Avalanche network and itself and my Avalanche wallet, and looked at all. I didn't understand all the different chains, but then I thought, hang on, this is quite a genius idea. And that's when I started investing in it. Once I saw and heard that .avax was coming out, because I'm a fan of the Avalanche network and what Ava Labs are doing myself, I just thought maybe this is going to take a couple of years, but I can see .avax being a good utility in the future. Now back to you deciding, okay, I'm going to create .avax for the Avalanche networks. Did you have to ask permission to do that, or how do you go about doing that?
So that's a good question. So the way that this project kind of formed was, you know, I started taking part in the Avalanche community like very early on, and I loved it, and I just decided like I want to build something here. And I kind of looked at, you know, all the applications, and as I mentioned before, like I had never really been interested in the financial applications of blockchain. And ENS was the first application I had heard on of Ethereum that really resonated with me. It really clicked, right?
Yeah.
And so when I was thinking, you know, what am I going to build? That was just immediately what I wanted to build. So I didn't think twice about it. I just started building, rolled out an initial version, and then I launched it. And then immediately after launching, I kind of realized like, oh, wait a minute, like, you know, do I have to ask permission? And so I did reach out in that instance, and I said like, wait guys, maybe I pulled the trigger too fast here. What do we do? What do you want to do here? And we started having a discussion after that, and things.
Oh, I love that. Not asking for permission, asking for forgiveness. You know, it's like, oh, whoopsie, I've accidentally half created the .avax domain name. Do you guys mind if I keep going? And I'm sure they would have been blown away by that, because I'm sure, I can't get into their head, but maybe they were thinking, well, no one else is doing it, and this, I'm sure they would have looked at your code and went, well, this looks like it's going all right. Let's see where it goes.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I have no idea what research they did on me, but I'm sure it was I'm sure they did some research. So
yeah.
And you know, in retrospect, I think kind of, you know, taking the time to say, you know, oh, wait a minute, did I do something wrong here? That's actually one of the most complex parts about domain names, that is often unseen by other people. You know, this name, like name squatting, for example, people don't necessarily notice or believe that they're doing harm. And so I wonder now in retrospect, like, did they notice that I came to them with that problem and perhaps thought that maybe this is relevant for the application, right?
Yeah, great. On that, talking about name squatting and trademark infringing, I've noticed with ENS, the Ethereum network system, .eth domain names, they're kind of like free for all, go for it. There's no real regulation yet. I mean, in the future, maybe some companies start trying to fine people and for trademark infringing. We don't know how that's going to go. but you have from the start. I mean, .avax only was turned on, I think, like around about a month ago, for the sunrise period. I did notice reading through the documentation while I started buying .avax names early that you have considered ICANN policy, and ICANN, of course, is the international body that kind of governs the DNS at the moment, like the normal internet with .com, .net, .com. Even Australian domain names abide by ICANN policies. How did you go about that? Did you talk with ICANN, or did you just kind of borrow some of their policy rules?
Yeah, so I mean the idea was to directly answer that question. Yeah, like we took their policies and we looked to the policies and we said, like, what's possible on blockchain, what's not possible on blockchain. And so there are, there are a few things that we just couldn't implement. For example, like they have the trademark database that you only get access to the trademark database if you're ICANN approved. I actually did reach out to them to try to get access to that to prevent or put warnings out, but it's just not possible. So we did our best to follow the policies, and the rationale behind that was kind of we don't know what direction ICANN is going to take in the future. They certainly are paying attention to blockchain domains. At the most recent meeting, like I think it was in March or February, there was a sort of a talk where they explained, this is what Handshake is, this is what unstoppable domains is, wow. And they expressed concern. They did express concern over these sort of alt roots, but they sort of they said that they seem to favor systems like ENS, which had kind of launched a single namespace. And so they're certainly paying attention. And so the rationale behind following their policies as best as possible is to say, like, we don't know what direction they're going to take, but it might be relevant in the future.
Yeah, that's interesting. I know what you mean. Unstoppable domains, they don't seem to want to be a part of the ICANN traditional kind of system that ICANN's been running since like the 90s. And I can understand that. Maybe it's time to break out of those kind of policies, or maybe they're onto something, and we should keep going with the policies they've invented. I like how you've at least kind of paid
homage.
Yeah, you've paid homage to, well, ICANN have done, some work, so they've got some of these rules right. And what I like is you did tell the .avax people from the start, be careful of trademark infringing because you might lose your name. So at least, because I did see some people were buying some clearly trademarked .avax names, but it's clear that .avax documentation did warn people at the start, probably be careful doing that sort of thing.
Yeah. I've got a question, Rob, before you keep going down the whiteboard. For all us mere mortals who are not overly technically savvy, there's a lot of people obviously now who are on the internet, the traditional DNS system. They go to their web browser, they type in an address, and it takes them somewhere. Is the .avax extension going to be functional on a normal browser? Is that how it will work or not? Will it all have to go through wallets? Is it going to be a crossover with how we're doing things now to how it will function? Can a website exist on it? These are all questions that I have no idea about.
Yeah. So yes, the goal is absolutely to have websites function on those domains. And we have sort of obviously we're not ICANN approved right now, so it's not working out of the box, but we have workarounds we have a couple of them functional right now. And we have a couple of them sort of in the pipeline. So the ones that are functional right now, there's an extension that can be used. So the .avax.sh, you can prepend, so myname.avax.sh, and that will like sort of give you access to DNS. So if you control myname.avax, we have this like DNS bridge. That's the first way. We also have a third party built an extension for Firefox that lets you visit .avax domains directly in Firefox, but you have to install that extension.
Yep.
And then we also want to have sort of like the other workaround is using like a DNS resolver that actually resolves .avax domains. But this requires the user to actually configure that that DNS resolver, so it doesn't work out of the box, right?
Yeah. It's sort of like where we're at with things like MetaMask and stuff like that at the moment. There's a few steps to get things to work. It's not seamless, but it is a nascent product. It's like it hasn't reached any real market yet. It's just a newborn infant waiting to cry out and get its bum smacked. So on that note, what else you got there, Rob?
Well, maybe sticking on that note for a minute, to me, it seems like by me saying we're early before, I think there's going to be, and this is just a personal opinion, I think there's going to be a tipping point in the future where, how there's like Google Chrome, and remember when that came out as a browser? Before that, there was like Microsoft Internet Explorer. I know there's the Brave browser now, and there's other browsers. Surely, in the not too distant future, in 6 months or 2 years, there'll be some new browser that comes out, and the browser itself, if it goes mainstream, you won't have to add these extensions to be able to see .eth domain names or .wallet or .blockchain unstoppable domain names or .avax domain names. It'll be, I think there's going to be a massive flip where a browser will build all this into it, and it will actually probably allow the old system, the traditional DNS to work in the browser, but it will also allow blockchain, ENS and Avalanche technology to work. So we need that. I don't know if Google are going to do it, and if I were them, I would, because someone else is going to do it if they don't do it with Google Chrome. And then it's kind of like, remember when you'd buy an Xbox or a Sony PlayStation and you'd have the old games, so they'd bring out a new system and you could play your old games as well as the new games. It's like, what do they call that? It's like you can keep playing the
backwards compatibility.
Yeah, backwards compatibility, right? So there's got to be some browser that comes out where everyone mainstream flips, and it's backwards compatible with DNS. Yeah. And it also works with the new blockchain. That's what's going to happen. So it's a matter of time. So in the meantime, if you believe what I'm saying is correct, then why aren't you getting ready for it? Why aren't you buying these unstoppable domains, .avax domains, and .eth domains for when that happens?
Good question. Why aren't we?
Well, I am.
I was going to say, like, Brave has already, they have captured like a massive portion of the crypto community just because they offer these features, and the crypto community, they want the feature set. They know that that's where things are happening, and they just want it to be simple.
Sure. What do you think the full utility of .avax can be once it's easily accessible, maybe on these new browsers?
Yeah, so I mean, I think right now there are like 3 main use cases for the domains. The first one is like in wallets. So like we talked about earlier, like wallets for crypto users. For anyone who's not familiar, like if I want to send you some Avax, like I have to get your OX address, for example. You're going to have to like type that out to me. I'm going to copy paste it and put it into my wallet and send you a transfer.
And it's a long hash code.
Yeah.
And it's rife for accidents and having things enter the wrong place. Happens all the time.
Yeah, exactly. And so, I mean, the primary use case that people think of is like We don't want to remember those identifiers, just like we don't want to remember IP addresses in Web 2.
Exactly.
We want to use something that's memorable.
Yep.
So that's the first case. The second case is, so block explorers, for people who aren't familiar, when you send a transaction in Web3, when I send a transfer of Avax, there's a history of that, and block explorers are ways that you can browse the history. You can look at the transactions that have already happened. One thing that's painful is if you're looking at a list of transactions that have already happened, you might want to find one that you have sent. And the only way you can find the one you have sent is by your long wallet address. And you have to pick that out of a list, and is difficult to find. So another use case of the domains is to replace those wallet addresses in these long lists, making it easier for users to find their information that they're looking for. We have, like, with those two use cases, you know, like I mentioned before, Avalanche has all sorts of different blockchains, and not only do we have these OX addresses, but we have all sorts of other types of seemingly random information that, like, regular users, they just don't want to see. They want to see these domain names instead. And then beyond that, we have the web browsing capabilities that users, you know, they're used to using in Web 2. They want to be able to use those in Web 3.
Yeah, like view websites, send each other emails.
Yeah.
So I mean,
email is an interesting one. Like I would say that Web3 users, they're often not, like, super keen on email. We have actually a really cool project that's working on an integration with us right now. That's their goal is to kind of use these domain names, so .avax domain names, and allow you to use that to kind of text phone numbers. So you can hook into their system, and, like, you can suddenly get into the SMS system and send texts to users all over the world.
Cool.
Really? So if someone, instead of giving out their mobile phone number, which, let's face it, is kind of old school at this point, we're still handing out, if I want to contact someone on WhatsApp, we're still handing out our mobile phone or our cell phone numbers, you know. Are you saying that if in the future soon, I'll be able to say to someone, instead of giving my mobile or cell number, I'll be able to say, contact me at 123.avax, and it will go through the SMS network?
No, I don't think it's going to work like that. I
Okay.
can't say for sure. I'm not fully aware of how that third party, how their system works, but I think it's more along the opposite way of, like, instead of having to acquire a phone number to text the on the SMS network, I think you can mint an NFT to acquire a number through them, and you can kind of hook your domain into the system.
Okay,
So
what I said would be cool though. So maybe someone that tech.
That would be epic. Yeah.
You heard it first. This was Rob's idea.
You know, some of my ideas are a bit out there, and yeah. Anyway, the utility for Avax already is it's your wallet address for sending and receiving Avalanche. That works now, right?
Those are also in the pipeline right now. So we have a bunch of we have a lot of integrations that are they're happening right now, the key ones, but they're not quite released yet.
So this is how early we are. So soon you'll be able to send and receive Avalanche in your with your .avax domain name. Soon, we don't know how long, but you'll be able to view websites and send emails, I guess.
That functionality is already available.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So we can put a link down for people to do some more research on that, how to do that. And I'm sure we'll write a few articles on our site. And then in the future, all kinds of utility can come. I mean, who knows what .avax can be used for, and the Avalanche network, like for identification purposes, all the other utilities that are coming with different blockchain technology.
Yeah, I thought it'd be good to, and we'll put this in the show notes too, maybe Rob, if you want to, just to give people the traditional web URL that people can go and look at what domains are available to register. So it's avvy.domains is the extension, is the URL. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
So avvy.domains is the URL, so people can go and have a look. You need to connect your wallet though. You need to connect your MetaMask. Not to do the availability. You can do it. You don't need to do it to get the availability. But of course, if you want to buy any, you've got to connect your wallet. So that's cool.
If you go to AVV, well, I don't know why my camera's zoomed in on my giant head, but if avvy.domain, you can connect your MetaMask.
You can have a look,
and you can buy .avax domain names.
Yeah, which, funnily enough, Connor was telling us off recording before we started how he actually came up with the name Avvy Domains. Do you want to tell that story, Connor? Connected to
sure.
an Australian. Seeing as one of your first interviews is by Australians, I think it's quite relevant.
Yeah. So when I was younger, I spent like quite a lot of time in ski towns in BC and Canada, and they're overrun with Australians. I don't know what you guys are all doing over here, but
it's terrible.
And they abbreviate Avalanche by they were always talking about Avvy gear, and Avalanche's abbreviating it to Avvy, and so that's the source of the name for the application.
That's funny and cool at the same time. Yeah, mate, we abbreviate everything.
That is true. We don't even say good day to each other. We just say g'day. We just skip so many letters. So to Australians, the word avalanche, it's too long. So
it's too many letters.
Call it
Avvy's much better. Yeah, that's it. It fits in well. I think Canadians and Aussies have always gotten on well. There's a same sort of sense of humor. Don't take ourselves too seriously, and which is quite ironic considering that Canada's right next to North America. Well, technically it's North America, but you know what I'm saying. United States of America. Love my mates in the United States of America. Love my mates in Canada as well. That being said, what else we got, Rob?
Well, I think I hope we've blown a lot of people's minds at this point already. I hope that Connor will come back on in the future, because so much is being developed and the technology is changing. And imagine in 6 months and in 12 months from now, where .avax will be and where the Avalanche network will be, and cryptocurrency and blockchain in general. So please come back on again in 6 months or a year, Connor, and let us know how it's all going.
That'd be great. Yeah.
Yeah, exciting. It's, everything has to start somewhere. The traditional internet started with very basic stuff and progressed. So we're moving into a new era of technology with the internet, and we want to be part of it, and not say that it's not worth looking at or not worth doing. A lot of people, unfortunately, are poo-pooing all of this stuff, and saying this, the only thing to look at is the traditional .coms and .nets, and that's it, and they'll rule forever, which I don't believe is the case myself. I think it'll be a long time before they have that potentially happen. But again, as we said earlier, it's not an either or, it's a and. I mean, so
I was going to say, I think like it's easy to focus on sort of the fact that like you can trade these cryptocurrencies, and a lot of people really focus on the financial aspect of it. But for people who are kind of in Web 2 and they haven't explored Web 3, there is just so much going on in the chat channels, in Discord servers, in Telegram communities. That is where the internet is happening right now. That is where all the fun, it's the fun that's happening on the internet. And so I guess what I mean to say by this is, like, you know, don't get distracted by all the price talk. Like there is like a lively community happening here, and things are being built.
Building blockchain technology, which is where we're going.
Yeah,
hop on the train or get left behind.
That's it. The iceberg is just the stuff most people are talking about in mainstream media. The tip of the iceberg, I should say, but everything underneath is what's happening. And I spend way too much time in Discords, so I'm seeing it all as well. But it's it's exciting stuff. I haven't been this excited since the early days of the internet, and I've said that many times on this podcast. So it's very, very cool. So well done, Connor. Good to see a young man with great intelligence and technical skills taking us forward into the new era of the internet, or Web3, whatever you want to call it. So awesome.
It must be exciting, Connor, coming up with this idea to invent .avax, and then now actually being able to go out and talk about it after putting in all that hard work. So yeah, well done.
Thank you so much, guys. Thanks for having me on.
My pleasure. Thanks for everyone tuning in. If you haven't liked or subscribed to the podcast, if you're watching it on YouTube or Spotify, please do so. We'd love to have you follow us for the next episodes that come out, and you get notifications. And we'll have Connor back on again. So be safe and go and buy some .avax names. This is not financial advice, but you know, nothing ventured, nothing gained. Have an experiment, try some out. Do some deep diving and see where it takes you. All righty. Bye for now, guys.
Thanks guys.